Romeo Giulia has all the potential in the world. It's stunning, even after nearly a decade on the market. And its high-performance Quadrifoglio trim, like this car, is universally loved. The harmonic growl of its Ferrari-derived twin-turbocharged V6 engine pairs with pinpointed steering and a go-kart-like seating position. In a sedan, it could have been the perfect car. And when you drive it, it feels like it is. But if the Quadrifoglio is the perfect car, why don't you see them anywhere? Welcome to the cautionary tale of the Alfa Romeo Giulia.
This is the 2024 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, and I'm Alanis King. Today, we're not just going to review this car. We're gonna go on a crash course about why the Giulia Quadrifoglio is one of the best driver's cars on the market, and how it missed its opportunity to truly shine.
The modern Alfa Romeo Giulia debuted in 2015. And it was a huge deal for Alfa and its parent company, now called Stellantis. Alfa Romeo left the United States market in 1995, with its parent company, then called Fiat, saying, I quote, Alfa Romeo's continued presence in the North American market has become increasingly economically unfeasible. End quote. The New York Times reported that the company's statement didn't detail the losses, but expected them to continue, and that it could not justify the cost of adapting future models to United States specifications. It was widely known and written that Alfa Romeo left due to poor sales and quality and reliability concerns, the latter of which is an unfortunate long-time stereotype and reputation of Fiats and Alfas. You've heard it, I've heard it, we've all heard it. Fix it again, Tony. Or just run Tony out of the American car market entirely. In 2006, then Fiat CEO Sergio Marchionne said he planned to bring Alfa Romeo models back to the United States as soon as 2007. But Alfa's big relaunch began in the mid-2010s, including the Giulia.
The Giulia made its US debut at the 2015 Los Angeles Auto Show, and people were in love with this car. Autoblog called it the sexiest starlet in LA, and Road & Track said it was a return to Alfa's history of driver's sedans. But the Giulia wasn't just pretty, and it wasn't just a driver's car. It also had variety. When the Giulia debuted, outlets reported that the base car would cost $40,000 American dollars and have a turbocharged four-cylinder engine that made 276 horsepower. The top-of-the-line performance car, the Quadrifoglio, would have a Ferrari-derived V6 that made 505 horsepower and had a 50-50 weight distribution. To show you just how excited everybody was about this, let me read an excerpt from Road & Track. It weighs 3,600 pounds and runs a 739 around the Nürburgring, which makes it the fastest sedan to ever go around the track by a staggering 13 seconds. It's 1 second faster than a Porsche 911 GT3, and it has a manual transmission. The Quadrifoglio will start around $70,000. If this car is done right, Alfa may have just spoiled the entire sports sedan market. All of this sounds great, right? So you might be wondering, Alanis, what is the cautionary tale? Well, the manual Alfa Romeo Giulia never made it to America, outside of those cars that went to the auto shows. And car journalists were shocked to learn this. When they asked parent company Fiat Chrysler in 2016, a spokesperson said they decided not to bring it to America due to Americans' lack of enthusiasm for sticks.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But that wasn't the big letdown. The big letdown came from a familiar gremlin: reliability. But you know what's not a big letdown? Me giving you all of this information about all of your favorite cars. And you know how I do that? I make sure I'm awake and alert with Apex Coffee. Apex is the best. All of the people there are so passionate about coffee and making it really good. We did a coffee tasting with Apex recently where they take a batch of their new beans and they pass it around the table so we can all taste all the different beans and flavors and make sure they're great before they go out to people. It was so cool to see everyone be so passionate about the flavors of the coffee and also making sure they're really, really good before they go out to customers. And if you want to try some Apex of your own, you can use code Alanis at checkout for 15% off your order.
I'm going to run through the highlights of perhaps the most popular story about the Giulia's reliability, published by Car and Driver. The headline was, after 40,000 miles with the 2018 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, our heart is broken. Rarely have we hoped for a car in our possession to succeed more than we did for this Alfa. And rarely have we been more consistently disappointed. Our honeymoon lasted 2,400 miles. Then the Giulia failed us for the first time. With 4,100 miles on its odometer, back to the dealership we went. When we took the car in for its 10,000-mile service, we lost use of it for 31 days. The Car and Driver issues keep going, but you get the idea. The next excerpt I'm going to read comes to you from Jalopnik in 2017. Bong, bong, bong! The dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. Power was gone. The whole car started shuddering. We were in a 2017 Alfa Romeo Giulia with barely 1,709 miles on the odometer, and it was already breaking down. It was 11 p.m., the car was full of 5 people, and it might be a while before we ever made it home.
I was one of those 5 people. I remember looking at the odometer and going, 1,700 miles? We all so deeply wanted to trust that the Giulia could get us home, but it barely did. On the other hand, I've been in a Giulia for 18 hours on a road trip and never had a single issue. Sometimes you get a winner, and sometimes you don't. But it's not about everyone's individual experiences with the Giulia. It's about the collective, whether we be talking about them in car magazines, on YouTube, on forums, or anywhere else. Once a car gains a reputation for being unreliable, it's really, really hard to go back. People rave about the Giulia Quadrifoglio's performance. Hell, I'm gonna rave about the Giulia Quadrifoglio's performance in this exact video. But we do so with the disclaimer that in order to enjoy its impeccable driving characteristics, you have to be willing to accept that it comes with a reputation. And that's a hard pill to swallow. The Giulia Quadrifoglio has a 2.9-liter twin-turbocharged V6 that makes 505 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. Alfa Romeo claims a 0 to 60 time of 3.8 seconds and a top speed of 191 miles per hour. In terms of vehicles, power to weight is a really big deal. If you have less power and more weight, you're gonna go slower. If you have more power and less weight, you're gonna go faster. And this car has a power to weight ratio of 7 pounds per horsepower. That's really good. The Giulia Quad's V6 comes from Ferrari's F154 V8. Basically, take the V8, chop off 2 cylinders, and you get this guy. All this power goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission to the rear wheels. And this car is so much fun to drive that I will take it on an errand, get home, and do an extra loop of my neighborhood at 30 miles per hour because I am having that much fun. That's unheard of. And before I show you that fun, we have one very important matter of business, and that is how many Atlantises can fit in the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio's trunk. Let's do it. Oh my goodness. A little narrow of an entry here, but I think we're gonna make it. Oh yeah, we're gonna make it. It's gonna be a little scary, but we're gonna make it. Ah! Come on. Almost there. This is like a solid 1 1/4 Atlantis. I expected it to be bigger. In America, this era of the Giulia Quadrifoglio is almost over, and 10 years is a healthy lifetime for any vehicle. The one I'm sitting in right now starts at $81,000, and it has a few big options on top of that. Rosso Etna exterior paint for $1,750. $3,500 race seats, a $700 driver assistance package, and a $2,500 exposed carbon fiber roof. The roof is absolutely stunning, and the total price comes to $91,415 American dollars. This Swan Song Giulia is a literal go-kart. So let's take it for a drive. It's time to drive the Alfa Romeo Giulia. And before we get into driving impressions, I want to give you a quick rundown of the interior in this car. When you first get in this car, you sit in this seat and you go, oh my goodness, I am on the ground. I'm straight up on the ground because we have the carbon bucket seats in here, and they are so thin and wonderful that you're sitting so low in a sedan that you're like, oh my, I'm in a go-kart. This is amazing. The seating position is so great. You have plenty of room for a helmet. You feel just so one with the road that is below you, and you're just so thrilled to be this low to the ground. The race seats are an absolute must if you get this car. There's no doubt about that. Then you start to look around on the interior and you're like, this is a $91,000 car? Because hear me out, this interior is fine and it looks nice, it's pretty, it's simple, it's got the carbon fiber accents everywhere, but that's just it. It's simple and it's all very black. And you know, there are some cute little accents. You have some green stitching in here that's nice. There's also a little light up graphic, but it highlights the car's headlights and the little pointy nose grill thing, and it looks like an owl in the driver instrument cluster. So that kind of stuff is nice and cute. But the rest of the interior just doesn't feel like $90,000. It doesn't make you feel like an absolute baller in here, right? It kind of feels like a $42,000 interior. Is it worth it for the driving experience in this car? Absolutely, but also it's nothing that's gonna impress your buddies, right? Other things you notice about the interior is that it makes some noises. There's been a consistent rattle over toward the passenger side of the interior the entire week I've had it. And also the driver instrument cluster has a little awning type thing over it to keep it cool, I assume. In every Giulia I've been in, that little awning moves and squeaks. You could pull it off. It's so loose and it squeaks and you're like, oh, come on. This could be a lot better. But some other really cool things about the interior, the paddles feel so nice. They have this nice little paddle action, but also the paddles change their temperature based on the ambient temperature around them. So if you have your vents going really hard with the AC, the paddles get really cold, or if it's hot, the paddles get really hot. Honestly, not a bad thing, because if it's hot outside and you just want to face those vents toward your paddles, you'll cool them down really quickly. Another part of the interior that I maybe would have liked 10 years ago, but don't like at all today, is the infotainment screen. I was trying to work this infotainment screen and I could not figure out what on earth was happening in it. I could not figure out how to get to my phone. I couldn't figure out how to change the songs or do whatever. There are just so many deep menus. It was really rough. And I was like, oh, let me try to find CarPlay. Oh my goodness, the wired connection for the phone is USB-A only, the big USB, not USB-C. All iPhone chargers are USB-C now. Come on, Alpha, put the plug in. In the back seat, I don't have tons of room. I'm 5'8.5", and I had 2 to 3 inches of legroom depending on my seating position. So if you're taller, you're not gonna have a ton of fun in the back seat of this car. But the saving grace is that you get to stare at the back of the carbon fiber buckets the whole time, which is kind of nice. Driving-wise, this car feels amazing no matter what speed you are going. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not just trying to be nice. You can go 30 miles per hour and this car's acceleration, it just like whips up to speed, and its steering, it's just so pinpoint and perfect and precise that you're just like, I want to do an extra lap of the neighborhood. Like, sure, am I going 30 miles an hour? I am going 30 miles an hour, but do I really care? No, because I'm having a blast. And the car just feels like it sticks through every corner. It just, oh, I'm about to take it through a corner, and just the pinpointed, the nimbleness of the steering, combined with the fact that this car just sticks to the ground. Watch, here we go, here we go, here we go. Ooh, let's go. It's just so rewarding to have a car that just sucks down to the ground and just goes. Oh, I love this car. I love how it feels. And there's some road noise and some wind noise around me, of course, but I think it's the right amount of road and wind noise to make me go, ooh, I'm on a road and I'm driving and I'm being sporty, but not enough to make me go, ugh, this needs more sound deadening. So it's the right amount. Pedal feel is absolutely wonderful. They're not too heavy, they're not too light, and also when you smack on the brakes, they're really, really nice. Even though we don't have carbon ceramics on this car, the brakes feel great, honestly. Now, obviously I'm not on a racetrack, so I'm not heating up the brakes like crazy. I'm heating them up some, you know, as much as I can on the road without being dangerous, but I'm not heating them to the point that I'm just absolutely testing their every last nerve. So, you know, carbon ceramics are gonna be great. These are pretty good, they're fine. The only real complaint you can have about the low-end acceleration on this car is that the car is just slightly sluggish at the very, very beginning of any acceleration. So that like first gear area, it takes a second for the car to wake up. It's like, oh, we're going, okay. And then as soon as it does that, it's really, really good. But there is this split second where it's like you startle it awake in bed and it's like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're going. All right, cool. The upshifts in this car when you are using the paddles are so fast. You hit the paddle, just they're so good. And you go into the corner and this car just doesn't really have a lot of body roll. It just sticks in the corners and you're just so excited driving this car. I'm so excited driving this car. It's so good. The seat feel is so good. I would say the only real complaint you could have about these race seats is the thigh support isn't as great in them. So you don't have the adjustable thigh support where you can bring the seat up and actually have something under your thighs. But that is never really a big complaint for me. I only mention it because it's a big complaint for a lot of people. I don't really mind it that much. It doesn't bother me. But if it's a thing for you, yeah, that's a thing in here. The only really sad thing is that I just wish out of the gate this car would have been perfectly reliable and not stranded people and not forced car journalists to write about what happened to them, you know? It's such an amazing car and it really deserves more than its reputation of it's gonna break down on you. It deserves so much more than that. The Giulia it really could have been such a savior for sports sedans all over the world, in America, everywhere. But its reputation really got ahead of it, and that's unfortunate because everyone really deserves to experience this. It's such a joy, and it's the kind of joy that just reminds you why you love cars. Now that we've driven the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, why don't we give it a quick grade? Welcome to Alanis's report card. The exterior on this car gets an A. This car was stunning 10 years ago, and it's still stunning today, which is an incredible feat. The interior gets a B, and hear me out, that interior alone is a C. It's not up to par. The race seats, they bring it up a whole grade. They are incredible. The performance on this car gets an A. That's really all I have to say about that. You saw the driving portion. And the value, I'm gonna give it a C. And unfortunately, I wanna say the value is great because this is an incredible car. But with its history and its reliability issues, you have to take a big risk to spend $91,000 on a Quadrifoglio. And I respect that. That's why it's a C. Would I take this car on a road trip? Yes, I would, because I have taken one on a road trip and it did just fine. I have also taken another one across town and it did not do just fine. So you're just rolling the dice, and sometimes that's all right. Overall, I give the car a B+. This car, from a driver's perspective, is at the moon as far as how good it is. It is incredible. But it just couldn't really live up to the hype in terms of its reliability and also its interior quality. And that's really unfortunate.
So what is the cautionary tale of the Alfa Romeo Giulia? It's that people want to trust their cars, and that as an automaker, you have to make your cars reliable from the start. Every aspect of a car, performance, appearance, comfort, reliability, can be improved upon, but not all improvements are made equal. If a car looks better, it looks better. If it performs better, it performs better. If it's more comfortable, it's more comfortable. All those things rely on our 5 senses as people, and we can immediately pick up on them. Reliability takes time. Sure, a car can be made more reliable, but we as people will wait in the wings, cautious about if that reliability will actually hold up. If you're spending $90,000 on the car, you want to drive it, not take it to the shop.
The Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio is the kind of car that makes you feel something. It's the kind of car that reminds you why you love cars, because it's just so good to drive, whether you're on the racetrack or in your neighborhood. But the Giulia is also the kind of car that can break your heart and break your bank. And that is the Giulia's cautionary tale. If an automaker can't sort its reliability gremlins before a car gets to market, even the most perfect, amazing, wonderful, beautiful driver's car can scare all of its admirers away. And that is perhaps the saddest tale of them all.